Welcome to my Minecraft Bedrock Village Breeder tutorial. Now, a couple of days ago, a viewer had sent me a comment asking if I had a recommendation for a village breeder. Now, this person's name was Me, M-E. So I hope I'm saying that correct. I am a butcher of names and a murderer of golems, so I apologize if I butchered your name. And I replied back that did not have a recommendation for a village breeder because I manually breed my villagers on site, but that I would look into it and I would get back with a recommendation. However, I searched YouTube and I personally built the 4 most popular designs of village breeders, and I can't recommend any of them. Now, that's not to say that they don't work, that they don't produce villagers, because most of them actually do produce villagers. Most of them don't produce anywhere near what they claim, however, they do produce villagers. My issues with them are not do they work or do they not work. My issue is with the quality of villager that they produce. The issues are that they are so concerned with a villager being quote unquote clean, implying that if he had a potato in his pocket, he's somehow dirty. They're so concerned with a villager being clean, which I don't like that term. I think it literally makes no sense. How can you be dirty if you have something in your inventory? However, I'm going to leave that alone for the moment. What they are producing, though, is villagers that are clean, but these villagers have problems. These villagers have attachments to those villages. These villagers have TS timer problems. These villagers, when you bring them to a new village, will not link to workstations or beds. So what they're producing might be a clean villager, but it is a broken villager also. The villager AI is, let's call it fragile at best. If you do things to the villager AI, you will have a broken villager. I have personally experienced where the only solution is kill all the villagers, break all the POI, and start again. Now, I'm seeing this a ton of times with people, and people are always like, I got my villager from a breeder. I got my villager from here. It's almost always from a breeder. I got my villager from the breeder. Why won't they connect to the village? And now that I'm looking into it, I understand why. People are sending these villagers to the nether and breaking their bed. Now, when you send the villager to the nether, it triggers the TS timer because he's no longer in the village. But what you're doing is you're breaking the bed, which theoretically breaks his connection to the village, but not really because he doesn't actually need a bed or POI. You're breaking his AI though. You're breaking his bed when he actually can't see the bed. It's very complicated. And just know that you are creating broken villagers. With that said, my second issue with all of these breeders is the fact that they claim to be automatic or they claim to be AFK, but they're not. You have to break the beds every 15-20 minutes. How is that AFK or automatic? If you can't let it run for at least an hour without breaking beds, that's not AFK. That's not automatic. I don't think they understand what that word means. Now, I guess rant over. I don't have recommendation for any breeders, so I simply just built my own. Let's get into this. Now, here is the output village of my breeder. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying output village. What are you talking about, old guy? And here's what I'm talking about. I have a breeder village, and because of this single bed here, I have an output village. Now, you may notice that most of these villagers are adults. That's because while I'm in my breeder village, these villagers are also, let's say they're loaded, and they are growing up the whole time while I'm in my breeder village. These aren't sent to the nether where as babies where they don't grow up. These are ready to go. Now, this, what I'm going to call the dump village, has a single bed. If I break this bed, because there are no other POIs in this system, in this village, none of these villagers will be in a village. This village will not exist. I'm going to say that one more time. This village will not exist. These villagers do not have POI already. So if I break this POI, there's no village for them to claim. I'm going to let that sink in for just a second. There's no village for these villagers to claim if I break this bed. And I will demonstrate that very shortly. Now, let's go look at the actual breeder village. Here we are at the breeder village. You may notice the redstone pulse going around. And that is simply to trigger the dispensers here that feed the villagers. You may also notice the cats. They spawn on the dispensers. There's really nothing that can be done about that. The villagers are fed. They mate. The babies are swept out. And when they fall, they are migrated to the lower village. This is the same mechanic that the insta-kill raid farm uses, and this is the same mechanic that have killed our stacked iron farms. So, if they're going to kill our stacked iron farms, I'm going to use this mechanic every chance I get. If they don't like it, they can always fix my stacked iron farms. It's very simple to build. It requires very few resources. It requires 16 villagers. However, if you manage only 2 villagers, you could always breed them together to get your 16. Like I said, there are some breeders that work. I'm not disputing whether they work or not. What I'm disputing is the quality of villager that they produce. This, if in case the redstone quits working, you just simply flip the lever on and off. It'll create a pulse. You just saw a baby villager born. It creates a pulse and you just let it run. And you can sit here for an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours or until your game crashes because you have so many villagers loaded. That is up to you. But there are no beds that you need to break. You don't need to manually feed the villagers. The villagers are just simply unloaded from this village. They're migrated to the lower village. Right there, there's another baby right there. Now, this village will produce about 64 villagers an hour. I've seen it go as high as 76. I've seen it as low as 52. Now, the 52 wasn't necessarily fair because it was the initial startup hour. So it took a little bit for the villagers to become fed. So if you wanted to actually manually feed them and then start it, you would probably not have that first slower hour. Now, let's jump into Universal Minecraft Editor, and I want to show you exactly what's going on. Here we are in Universal Minecraft Editor, and as you'll notice, we have two villages, one here and one here. Now, you'll notice that this village has over 100 villagers. That is our dump village. I've actually recorded the intro to this a few times now. My my rant got out of hand a couple of times, so I had to start over. I probably said some things I shouldn't. Now, this is our actual breeder village. You'll notice that it actually has 16 villagers. That's the number of breeder villagers that we have in our breeder village. I'm more concerned with this one, and I want to show you something. We'll go down here to the POI, and I want to show you these villagers. Notice that it says skip for bed, skip for bell, and skip for workstation. And they're all going to say this, every one of them, except for a single villager. One villager has one bed, and that's the only POI in the entire village. And like I said, I break the one bed, the village goes away. There is no village for them to try to connect back to. That village will not exist. All the villagers look like that. Do you see that? I can pick any of these at random. Skip, skip, skip. That skip means that they don't have that type of POI. This is not your typical breeder. This uses different mechanics than they're using. They're creating villagers, but they're creating villagers with problems. Do you see that? I can pick any of these. Let's pick the last one. Skip, skip, skip. I can pick any of these. Do you see that? Not a single POI to be found. As opposed to the breeder village, each one of these will have a bed. I want to show you the difference. See that right there? That's a bed. On count 1, that means bed. This is the bed folder, this is the bell folder, this is the workstation folder. They won't have a bell because I've already told you to throw those in the trash. They also don't have a workstation because I didn't include a workstation. This breeder breeds villagers that are not clean because they have carrots in their pockets. It is a carrot in their pocket, and they are not happy to see you. It is definitely a carrot. Let's jump back over to the testing world, and I want to show you what happens when you break the bed. Now, I'm on Windows 10, so if you're on a lower end mobile device, or if you're on a Nintendo Switch, or maybe even Xbox or PlayStation, you will not want to let this many villagers pile up. This many villagers bobbing around in the water and bumping into each other. It will cause severe entity collision lag. However, you are free to siphon the villagers off at any point in time. If you turn off the feeder, the villagers will stop producing. So don't let it get out of hand like I have here. But you'll notice that I'm on Windows 10 and I'm not having any sort of lag. So the lag will be entirely controllable by you. But if it ever gets out of hand, a sword will quickly take care of these villagers. Now, like I said, this is the only POI in the entire village. If I break this POI, there are no POI left in this village for them to claim. There is no village left for them to claim. These villagers will be free villagers and ready to claim any workstation or bed or village that you introduce them to. With that said, if you're transporting them to an iron farm, you want to take extreme caution because these villagers will readily join any village that they come within the distance of. So you need to take extreme caution when transporting them. You can transport them through the nether, you can use rails, you can use boats, you can transport these villagers any way you want to. They are just free villagers. So I want to break this bed and show you in Universal Minecraft Editor what it actually does. So now that we've broken that, there's not a village right here. We are not looking at a village anymore. Alright, here we are back in Universal Minecraft Editor. You'll notice that it's the same village name right here. With that said, that's our breeder village. Notice that it is the only village that exists. Those other 100 or so villagers, they do not have a village that they belong to. I want to repeat that one more time. They do not have a village that they belong to. They do not have POI. They do not have beds. They do not have bells. They do not have workstations. They do not have TS timers. There is no village for them to disconnect from in order to trigger a TS timer. Those villagers simply exist. They are ready for you to put in your iron farm. They are ready to connect to whatever type of village that you provide them with. People who build breeders are always concerned with a clean villager when in fact they didn't really listen to the problems people were having, and they should have been trying to create a villager that was unattached. These are unattached villagers. These are free villagers. I hope I've been clear with the difference. I don't care about the carrots and the potatoes in their pockets. I only care about whether they have POI or TS timers or other problems like that. That is my main concern. Let's jump into how to actually build this now. Now, before we get into how to build it, I want to drop a little knowledge on you. My tutorials for farms get 5-6 times what a mechanics video get. So I'm going to drop a little mechanics knowledge right here in the middle of this video. Sorry that I tricked you. Too bad. There is an entire class system to villagers. Now I know what you're thinking. Hell, guy, you just showed us these same villagers. However, when I was doing a little research for this video, I noticed something weird in the JSON files. There are two types of villagers, two main types. There is what is called the Peasant Villager and the non-Peasant Villager. Now, the peasants include the nitwit, the unemployed or V1 villager, the farmer, because that's a accomplisher, the fletcher, the fisherman, and the shepherd. There are 6 peasant villagers. I'm gonna start referring to them as the country folk. There are 6 country folk, but in the files they have a tag of peasant. They also have the tag of their name, so this one would have the tag of shepherd, mob, and peasant. But I'm going to call them the country folk. Now, amongst the remaining 9 non-peasant villagers, that's these 2, these 3, and this one, there are 4 distinct classes amongst them also. Each one of these villagers has its name, a mob tag, and non-peasant. So they definitely count against the global cap. However, they can actually breed above the global cap. So when we build large iron farms later, there won't be a problem. Now, these 2 villagers simply have their names such as librarian, mob, and non-peasant. Cartographer, mob, non-peasant. Now things get very interesting on this side of the aisle. He of course is a cleric, so he has cleric, mob, non-peasant. But then he has a priest tag. Priest. These 3 guys have their name, armorer, toolsmith, weaponsmith, and then of course mob, non-peasant. But they are also a category called blacksmith. Now, the last category here, of course, leather worker, mason, butcher, but they're also mob and non-peasant. But they are what's called an artisan. Now these are your hipster mobs. These are the guys that have weird mustaches for no reason, that make homemade pickles, that make candles just for fun, that kind of thing. They ride weird bicycles with giant wheels in the front. These are your hipsters. Pay no attention to these villagers. Now, I believe that these are designed so that these villagers pick out a certain type of house in a village. So, when you're creating an iron farm, that has no relevance to you. However, I'm going to bring this back to why I was looking at this information. The peasants will accept 7 types of food: wheat seed, beetroot, carrots, potatoes, wheat, and bread. 7 types. The more sophisticated city folk or non-peasants will only accept 4. So these 4 are the same 4 over here, with the exception of seed, beetroot seed, and wheat. So these are the 4 types of foods that you can use to breed villagers. That's how I'm going to bring this back and relate it to what we're talking about. But I just want to drop a little knowledge on you, because not enough people watch my village mechanic videos. Now, let's get into how to build it. Alright, to build this you'll need the following items: scaffolding, a block of your choice. It doesn't have to be glass, but it certainly can be glass. It can be any type of block: dirt, stone, as long as it's not a gravity block like sand or gravel. It can literally be any block. It can be dirt, it can be stone, it can be, don't say, hey Olga, can I make it out of wood? Of course you can. Can I make it out of obsidian? I wouldn't, but you can. Can I make it out of glowstone? Absolutely. You can literally make it out of any block. And you're going to say, hey Olga, does it need to be chunk aligned? No, but it's always better if it is, because as you know, there's always a bug involving chunk borders and mobs respawning. So with that said, what I need you to do is, we're going to build the lower part first. Simply go around the chunk like this. Now, do that 3 more times until you have a 4 high wall. Now, once that's completed, you have a couple of choices here. If you just want to place a one deep water throughout the whole entire chunk here, that's fine. Just simply put water buckets along one side and then put them along the other side, and that will create a one deep water. However, what I recommend is that you count out 8 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you do this for 7 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. You just simply put your water buckets here. That will save you twice as many water buckets. Now, when the villagers fall down, they will all be pressed against here. So if you're not going to collect them semi-regularly, you may not want to do this, because all of your villagers will be pressed right here, and that will cause extra entity collision and more lag. If you're not going to collect them very regularly and you're going to breed 100 villagers, you're going to want to just simply place water everywhere in here so that the villagers will spread out more and cause less lag. Now, with that said, this part is complete. Let's add the, well, it's not complete. Let's add the pod for the bed. And then we need to talk about, right here on my testing world, my Y value is 4. However, I need to go up at least 76 blocks from the highest place a villager may be, which is 5. So that would put me at 81 blocks. However, I want to give myself a little wiggle room, so I'm going to go up to 85. So I suggest you do the same thing, is that you go up 81 blocks from this block. And I suggest that you use scaffolding. This way you can go up and down at your leisure. Notice that in the lower village, I did not place a bed, and I did not place a villager yet. Oh Lord, we're way too high. Okay. Now what I need now is simply a 16 by 16 platform. Now that you have this platform that matches the one below, simply do the same thing you did below and make a 4 tall wall, high wall. Now, once your wall is completed, it should look like this. The next step is to simply go all the way around like this, 1 block high. And in the corner, complete this pattern right here. Skip 2 spaces, skip 1, 2, 3, 4. And it should look something like that. Come in, add glass blocks here, add glass blocks here, and these are for our beds to go on. Okay, now that we have that done, Add your beds. Break those blocks. Add your beds. Add your beds. And between what I show you in my testing world and in this design, I've altered the water streams a little bit. Whoops. So it's going to look slightly different than my testing world. However, this is the preferred method to build it. Okay, now that we have our beds like that all the way around, come in here like this, all the way around. All the way around. All the way around. And this doesn't have to be glass. It absolutely can be any block you want it to be. All the way around one more time. Not there. Learn how to place blocks, old guy. Now we're almost finished. Come in and place your dispensers in the corners like that. And if you do it now, it is much easier than when you put the villagers in. Because the villagers will be jumping around and poking their heads in the way. So this is the time to put your dispensers in. Add your water. Add your water. Now, when you do this in survival, you will want to build a bubble column, a soul sand at the bottom, a tube and filled with water so that you can bring your villagers up here. That's how I would move them up. You will need at least 2, but 16 would be better. Add your villagers. They will find beds. It doesn't matter if they're nitwits. It doesn't matter what kind of villagers they are. The only stipulation is they can't be children. Because if they're children, they will fall out of the map here, out of the village. Now, with that done, it doesn't matter which way you go around, as long as you go the same way. Just complete all the way around with repeaters. Now, there may be a better way to do this, because I'll be the first one to admit that my redstone is hot garbage. My redstone is as bad as most people's village breeders. So if you want to use rails or, I don't know, some other magic redstone device to trigger these dispensers ever so often, then that would be fantastic. And it doesn't matter which corner you put that at. Put it right here if you want to. What needs to be done now is to fill the dispensers. Now, I'm going to do that off camera, but just fill every dispenser with one type of food. Use the same type of food in all of the dispensers. Now, once all your dispensers are filled, we're almost ready to start this thing up. Get some redstone dust. You're going to need to crouch. Put it on top of all your hoppers. Now, when you get to your repeater, just set each one to maximum tick. If you don't do this, your dispensers are going to fire very often, and you're going to burn through a lot of food. So if you have the food to burn, then don't worry about that step. Now, I'm going to recommend that you don't, however. That you do set these to maximum ticks. Now, once that's completed, if I was building this in survival, I would obviously build a lightning shield. I would build it at least 10 blocks above this. I have heard reports of lightning strikes being an issue again in 1.14, so lightning shields are a must again. That is up to you. Do that at your own discretion. Now we are ready to flip it on and off, and as it cycles around, it will slowly start feeding the villagers. Once they have been fed, they will start breeding, and we will need to complete the rest of our village, or the rest of our breeder. To complete the rest of it, you simply place a bed down, you bring in your last villager. Now it's important not to bring him even close to the breeder until this last step. It can be any kind of villager, it can be a child, a nitwit, any type of villager will do. And that's it. It's as simple as building that. Now, if you have questions or comments, or if you think I got something wrong, if you just want to think I'm an idiot, obviously I am an idiot because I didn't break the glass. And like I said, I changed the water stream slightly because I thought this was a better look. If you thought I got something wrong, oh, one last thing I forgot while I was building this. Fill in that corner with glass. So either do it at the end or do it when you're constructing it. But if you don't, carrots will end up there, and also baby villagers. So I feel like this is an improved water flow. It also produces a smaller output shaft. So I feel like this is the way to go, as opposed to the one I showed in the testing world. Once again, if you think I got it wrong, if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to just say, oh, that's awesome, old guy. Hey, I love those comments. If you want to call me an idiot, if you want to check out people who I think do cool stuff, their links, of course, will be in the description. Also, places where you can find me on Discord. Thanks for watching. Now, during my initial upload, I made an error, and one of my viewers pointed it out. And so, I'll be correcting that now. The addition to this farm is that you need to put beds along the top. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Now, it doesn't really matter how many beds, as long as it's not more than 32. 32, if you place more than 32 beds up here, which you wouldn't be able to anyways, but if you place more than 32 beds up here, you would actually run the risk of creating a second village. Now, I'm going to tack this onto the end, so now if you want to call me an idiot, I will totally take it, because I am totally an idiot. I left off these beds in my initial build. However, I'm going to re-upload this video and correct my error. Even old guy makes a mistake from time to time. I would like to thank Aldrich for commenting and pointing out that I left the beds off. He had a question that I immediately realized what I did wrong, and I would like to thank him. This will be a re-upload, and pay no attention to my errors. Just pretend like I never make a mistake, and then it's all good. Alright, thank you.